Nothing but truth with Craig Durham on AFR Talk.
Welcome back. Multiple times a best-selling author and the author when it comes to understanding our enemy's doctrine, and that would be the Quran and Islam as we know it. The Politically Incorrect Guide to Islam, that is just one of his books. And saying that, no, I'm not going to caveat it, because I'm not saying that every enemy of ours is a Muslim. No, that's not what I'm saying. It's not what he's saying, but we are talking about Islam, and yes, it is not a religion of peace, and yes, it is the doctrine being used to justify and legitimize the attacks on innocents. And it has a long history, and he details this. Robert Spencer. Robert, we've been talking about a Ron Paul presidency, and specifically Iran. You wrote an article praising Rick Santorum's understanding of Iran in part of it. Tell me, when we deal with Ron Paul and Iran, we could have mutually assured destruction. He says, let's apply that. Let's not feed the war machine here. Let's not gin it up. Oh, that's Chris Math. No, it's also Ron Paul in a way, talking about wanting to go to war with Iran. Today we have the assassination, it looks like, of a nuclear scientist in Iran through magnetic bombs. But would mutually assured destruction work for Iran as it did with the Soviets?
Doesn't look like it, Crane. We have on record one of the mullahs several years back saying, look, if we send a nuclear bomb to Israel, Israel is destroyed. But if they retaliate, we can sustain 10 to 15 million casualties. And compounding that, and even more important than that, horrific statement, is the doctrine of the 12th Imam in Shiite Islam. 12 or Shiite Islam is the official religion of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and it believes that the 12th Imam, who is the savior figure, will come back. He's been hiding since the 9th century, and he's going to come back out of hiding at a time when the Muslims are being persecuted like never before. Now, there's nothing that says the Muslims can't bring about that persecution by attacking, doing some major attack that will draw some kind of retaliation. And so it may be that the mullahs will decide that they can attack Israel and draw this retaliation that would be, they would hope, represented as the persecution of the Muslims like never before, and draw back the savior figure, the 12th Imam.
So if we dealt with them as the likes of Iran, being like the Soviet Union, mutually assured destruction and understanding, they actually would embrace a genocidal Armageddon. And
yes, exactly.
Okay, all right.
They're not really interested in staying alive. If the Muslims have to be persecuted to bring back the 12th Imam, then they will initiate that persecution, or they could initiate that persecution. If that means that millions of Muslims will die, that's okay, because then when millions of Muslims die, this 12th Imam is going to come back, and then he will conquer the world and Islamize it, and everything will be great.
Tell me, sometimes when I bring up these clips, and I could go and document, I've done it before, but I would much rather have you answer this now. There have been comments made about the destruction of Israel by Iranian members of the Iranian leadership, as well as the big Satan, that would be us, the United States. What evidence do we have that they would really, really carry this out?
Well, the fact that they say that they will, I think, is sufficient. A state that's a responsible member of the international community is not going to be crowing and thumping its chest about the imminent demise of another state, and saying that the Zionist regime will soon be ended, and saying that America will soon be ended. The fact that they say these things, I think, is enough, and that they are pursuing a nuclear program at the same time that they insist is peaceful, but that even Hillary Clinton and even the International Atomic Agency, the UN Atomic Watchdog, now admits is clearly weapons-oriented. And so they're trying to get a nuclear weapon in defiance of the international community, and they're saying that the state of Israel is soon going to end. I think that we would be foolish in the extreme to ignore these statements or to act as if they don't really mean them.
Well, it's not like they support suicide bombers in Hamas 40% of the funding, or support Hezbollah.
Well, that's another thing, too. You're absolutely right. And they fund Hamas, they fund Hezbollah, and so it's clear that they are murder-oriented and they're willing to pay.
All right. Shifting gears, because I know we've done these interviews before, Robert, but I think people need to know the consequences of the Ron Paul presidency as commander-in-chief and his view on these things. They can make their own decision, but they should make an informed decision on our enemies. Of course, we're part of a great conspiracy. I don't want to get into it, but Karl Rove gave us our talking points this morning. Now, is Karl still in charge, by the way, Robert? I don't know. I missed the meeting in the secret bunker. I put that in there for a little humor because it inevitably goes to a conspiracy theory.
Crane,
Right. Yeah, that's right. Because you're not for nation building and putting Islam in the Constitution because you recognize where that leads, Sharia law. I guess maybe they don't want
That's right.
to.
Exactly right.
Tell me this.
See, in a certain sense, Ron Paul's message resonates with people because he does have a point. We can't continue to pursue these Wilsonian adventures. It's foolish, and it costs lives. American lives, it costs money, it costs material that we cannot afford to waste to try to build democracies, Western-style democracies, in Iraq and Afghanistan, as if we pour enough money into those countries, they'll turn into New Jersey. It's ridiculous, it's wrong-headed, it was futile, it was foredoomed. Now, does that mean that we should not have any kind of military presence in those areas? Absolutely not, and this is where Ron Paul is really out to lunch. That he thinks because these missions were ill-conceived and foredoomed, that therefore if we just left, everything would be okay. And he, in that, demonstrates a complete, abject, abysmal ignorance of the jihad doctrine and its implications.
And I guess the final question on this point would be that what would be the alternative to nation building? Do we need to defeat the enemy and humiliate the enemy to send the signal that if you go down this road in any way, you will be destroyed because inevitably it will be a hostile state that will yield deaths to innocents, that being Westerners most oftentimes?
Oh, yeah, I think so, Crane. It's very simple that the Marshall Plan was a great thing in Europe after World War II, and we should be proud as a nation for having rebuilt Germany and Japan. But it doesn't. I'm not sure that it really should have been adopted as a template for all wars. And it also lends, in the jihadi context, it plays into the idea that if we just are nice enough to them, then they will be nice to us. And that's completely naive when it comes to jihadis who hate us for reasons of their religious doctrine. That's not going to change no matter how much money we give them. And so the problem with the Marshall Plan is that the jihadis will not fight if they don't have the strength to win. And yet we keep giving them the strength to win. If we stopped and, as you say, humiliated them and left, if we defeated them and made them powerless to hurt us and left, then we would be in a much better position now.
Final question for you regarding Nigeria, but also on the overall impact of the persecution of Christians. There is a war going on with Islam. If we look at wars and violence, wars across the world, we look at 50-something% of them involve Islam, and Muslims, in essence, being a part of those wars. In Nigeria, we have jihadist murder for Christians who are fleeing from the violence. There have been claims that Christians have actually gone out and perpetrated crimes against Muslims as well in this conflict. It's our fifth largest supplier of oil, Nigeria. Your thoughts on what is going on there? If we are to read the truth, what is the truth about what's going on in Nigeria?
Well, it's a jihad against the Christians. Certainly the Christians have fought back on occasion, not always. And then the New York Times and the mainstream media always portrays it as sectarian violence, with Christians killing Muslims and Muslims killing Christians. In fact, Muslims in Boko Haram, which means Western education is sinful, they are a jihad group, a very vicious and violent one that has been targeting Christians, it's been murdering Christians, and they have friends in high places. the Nigerian government is apparently powerless to stop them, and the president of Nigeria, Goodluck Jonathan, has actually said that there are people in the government who are in favor of Boko Haram, and so there's really not much the government can do about it. And so, well, it's tempting to say good luck with that, Jonathan, but in any case, Nigeria is heading toward a civil war and probably Islamic rule.
And if we see what we've seen out of the Obama administration with the surrender of, in essence, allowing Islamists to come to power, we're going to see the persecution and eradication of Christians and Jews, for that matter, out of those countries. Is that what we are going to see in Egypt, for example?
Very likely. I mean, look, in Egypt, you have the Muslim Brotherhood already calling for the reimposition of dhimmitude and the institutionalized subjugation of the Christians, the payment of the jizya, the special poll tax for the non-Muslims, and the Christian Copts have actually said that they would resist that to the point of martyrdom, which means they probably will face martyrdom. They probably will be massacred, and if they don't submit. And so it's certainly going to be very tough going for the religious minorities all across the Middle East in the coming years.
Robert Spencer, I know I said it was the last question. I asked you 3 more after that, but it's great to be with you, and thank you for taking the extra time with us. Jihadwatch.org if we want to learn more about the issues. And also, I just encourage you all to read the books. After you read them, put them on your shelf because you're going to refer to them. If you're a talk show host, you do. I guarantee 90% of talk show hosts, when they talk about this matter, have at least one of Robert's books. Hey, great to be with you. Thank you.
Always a pleasure, Crane. Thank you.
Take care. All right. I'm going to tell you about a book on the flip side that you need to know about. We had a special on it today. Plus, much more. We have, oh, that's in there? Really? Debbie Wasserman Schultz? Going after the Tea Party? Oh, you're going to want to hear about it. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth on AFR Talk.
American Family